Sound like Patrick. Yeah, I guess that's wrong. So are we starting 10 minutes after, like, Michigan time, or? Okay.
Good. Doing great.
Exhausting.
Yeah.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Campus of the Future competition finale. I'm Jeff Sorensen, co-founder of Optimize and director for social innovation for the College of Literature, Science, and the Arts here at Michigan. And if you don't know what that means, don't worry. It basically means that I help as many students as possible create the kind of projects that we're going to see here tonight. So a U of M education is all about following your passions, finding your career path, and taking initiative to make a positive impact in society. We have all that here tonight, a really exciting night for Michigan. Thank you, first of all, to the students from the School of Music, Theater, and Dance for that incredible performance beforehand. And I'd like to introduce our judges who we have on stage here with us. They've all come in from out of town to spend time with us today. We have Dr. Kwame Anthony Appiah, professor of philosophy and law at New York University, and the writer of the New York Times Ethicist column. Dr. Appiah is an acclaimed philosopher and author and was recently named one of the Carnegie Corporation of New York's greatest immigrants of 2017. We have Dr. Babak Parviz, vice president of Amazon.com, a U of M graduate and the creator of Google Glass. Dr. Parviz is widely recognized for revolutionizing communication technology and is the recent recipient of a University of Michigan Bicentennial Alumni Award. And we have Dr. Jenny Sabin, architectural designer, professor of design and emerging technologies, and director of graduate studies in the Department of Architecture at Cornell University. Dr. Sabin is one of the nation's most recognized innovators in architecture and design. So as a U of M graduate myself, I'm really excited for tonight, both because I'm excited to see what the student projects have going on, and because I think this is a really important moment for us as a university. Because when I was thinking about where we've come in 200 years and asking the question of what the campus of the future will look like in the next 200, I just couldn't help but thinking that the question we should be asking first is, will there be one? And I think there's a couple of different scopes to this. One is when we're thinking on the scope of universities themselves, will we innovate and adapt in the ways that we need to continue to be really relevant in society over the next 200 years? And then more broadly, in the context of our changing climate, will we contribute to the solutions that we need to have any kind of positive future happening in 200 years? And so I think that tonight, when we hear these incredible ideas from students, we need to not only applaud and not only be inspired, but we actually need to act and put resources behind these kind of ideas. And so I hope that you'll all leave here feeling inspired to actually go do something in the positive direction, just like the students that we've seen here tonight. So with that, at this time, I would like to welcome to the podium President Mark Schlissel, 14th President of the University of Michigan.
So thanks, Jeff, for the introduction and for your role in helping our students. You inspire innovators here at Michigan, and you've done so for a while, and you will do so into the future, so thanks very much. I'd like to thank everyone who's made this colloquium possible, including our national panel of judges, our Bicentennial Executive Director, Gary Krenz, and the Bicentennial Professors, Mika Levac-Monte and Joanna Milinchuk. Let's give them a round of applause. But most of all, I want to thank the teams of more than 100 students who submitted projects to this colloquium. I've had the opportunity to look at a number of them, and I am thankful that I don't have to be the one deciding the winners. The University of Michigan's 200th year has given us this wonderful opportunity to look back on our history with purpose, to examine our impact on society, and to consider how our university has continued to evolve. For this third and final colloquium, our future is the explicit focus. How will we extend our impact and value to society into our third century? When planning this colloquium, we began with a simple question. How would you re-envision the university for the future? This evening, you'll see the culmination of months of creativity devoted to the answer. The approach taken by our students and Bicentennial professors was to encourage thinking and explore ideas free from the boundaries we face or perceive today. In discussing the themes of our colloquium, during a panel earlier in the year, Dr. Malenchuk said she wanted to challenge our historic structures so we can create a better and more responsive university. She even called into question the title of professor because it implies a one-sided transfer of knowledge. What I'd like to do instead, she said, is to turn the university experience so that it's not the sage on the stage professing wise things upon the passive audience. I would instead like to have a different title, she said, one that is active, one that engages, one where everyone is an equal partner in creating new knowledge together. The student projects for this competition accept the challenge of designing a better future. They explore physical spaces and virtual realms, new ways to bring us together as people, and new ideas for teaching and learning. Some projects address the very real challenges we face today as an institution of higher education. And some envision a future where our ability to express ourselves, create, and learn is uninhibited by spatial limitations. But behind all of the projects is an optimism that I hope inspires us all as we embark on the third century of this great university, of this place, however it may look in the years ahead, envisioned from the beginning to serve the public through excellence in research and education. I wish all of the student competitors the best of luck tonight. And once again, thank you for embracing the challenge and providing us with your creativity and inspiration. I now invite you to enjoy a look at some of our projects and to hear from our Bicentennial professors.
The Campus of the Future project is a student design competition. We're asking students to reimagine what the campus might be looking like going into the future.
This is the University of Michigan's Martian campus. We have set out to be the Red Planet's foremost institution of higher learning.
Mobile labs aren't limited to a specific field or discipline. They can be used by any discipline seeking more direct engagement with communities. Think mobile health clinics or ethnographic studies.
Universities have been pretty much the same for a long time. Our students are creative, thoughtful, and interested in changes, and so we wanted to see what they can do.
Application begins with the foundations of conducting and isolates the nuances of communicating different musical expectations by using single sound exercises, so that any student can become the world's next maestro.
The visionary biological addition used bacteria and agricultural waste to grow lattice structures. My project specifically reimagines the architecture program's locational narrative and proposes a fantastic future for the building industry.
Some groups are talking about developing social media applications that connect students together and connect experts together.
Some are reimagining spaces, some are reimagining how we move around campus. All of them are united by the students being interested in forging connections, new kinds of connections, sort of crawling out of their silos.
We envision a future where faculty, students, and learning specialists work together.
By working together, we are able to collaborate and combine our ideas to build the best solution we can.
Students living far off campus have no option but to walk or bike. Powered by a battery, Move is more than a personal mobility solution. It's essential that we come up with new ideas for transportation.
The Campus of the Future isn't just about engineering. It's not just about architecture. It's also about economics, philosophy, education.
It's about who is here, who belongs, who feels like they belong, and who has access.
By integrating these powerful features with a navigation algorithm, we are able to navigate a user with turn-by-turn instructions.
Higher education isn't a delivery mechanism, it's a way of thinking. And so I think this is an important moment in time to be thinking about what higher education is and what it can do, and why it is so important to our society.
Why not think big as opposed to just doing the same old, checking the boxes, doing the things that we've always done. University of Michigan has always had that potential, and now it's time to remember that again.
I'm so proud of all of the projects, and I'm so glad that they're here today showing you what they're capable of.
So before we move forward, I want to thank all the participating teams. We had 34 teams participating in this competition, and they all deserve a round of applause right now. So later in the show, our judges will award $25,000 in prizes to these students, $15,000 to the first place and $10,000 to the second. We've been so amazed by each project team's thoughtfulness and engaged exploration of the teaching and learning experience at University of Michigan in the next century. And you know, I don't think 2 prizes is enough, do you? How about we add one more?
Yeah.
I'm excited to announce that we will also award a 3rd place prize in the amount of $5,000 today.
Yay.
Our panel of judges visited the showcase on North Campus earlier today and had the opportunity to engage with each project. They've seen project videos, met many of the students, and before we move forward, is there anything that you'd all like to say from the judges' couch to all the students who participated?
Thank you. We had a really rewarding day, and it was terrific to talk to you and meet you. And I'm going away with lots of ideas that I hope I can use. And I know you will also have inspired each other by working together and by seeing each other's projects. So it was a great day.
So for me, it's always like coming back home when I come back to the university. So thanks for having me here. As we engaged the students, looked at the projects, what came across was all the bold thinking that you brought to these projects, all the creativity that you brought to these projects. But not just that. These are expected, obviously, from Michigan students. But the empathy that you brought to these projects and the kindness that you brought to these projects and the thoughtfulness and inclusiveness that you brought to these projects. So I was very impressed and humbled to see all Michigan values beautifully showcased by you. Thank you.
Yeah, I learned a lot this morning and afternoon. So, thank you for bringing these visions to the table. And I think one of the things that I was most impressed by across all of the projects was the level of real collaboration across disciplinary boundaries. And, that's not always easy to do. I was really impressed with the way that many of you are reimagining the spaces that we might learn in 50, 100, 200 years from now. And what does it mean to learn how we learn? So thanks for your visions, the breadth of and depth of the projects, and for your inspiration.
All right. At this time, I will announce the top 5 projects as decided by our panel of judges, and I'll ask that one representative from each team join us on stage. The top 5 projects in no particular order are the Virtual Reality Online Campus, the U of M Satellite Campus on Mars, U of M Mobile Learning Labs, Fathom, And a MOOC developed through engaged learning, students creating for students. All right. So let's take a deeper look at one of our 5 projects.
Act on Climate, Steps to Individual, Community, and Political Action is an original online course created by students for students.
Inspired by Dr. Michaela Zent, we worked with faculty and staff at AI and CRLT
to create a massive open online course, or MOOC, about taking action on climate change.
University of Michigan classes are typically proposed, developed, and taught by faculty. However, we envision a future where faculty, students, and learning specialists work together to create courses through a process called co-design.
Through our experience co-designing Act on Climate, we found that by breaking down traditional barriers between faculty, students, and staff, everyone wins.
While experts in their particular fields, faculty typically have not had the opportunity to learn about pedagogy or how to teach. As a PhD student, this experience has allowed me to understand the learning process in a hands-on collaborative environment. And as a result, I feel more confident to create my own courses in the future.
Co-designing presents its fair share of challenges. We had to determine and agree on the course structure and learning objectives, write and record presentations and interviews, and design engaging assignments.
Our collaboration not only benefited each of us, it also improved the quality of the course and its overall impact.
Act on Climate is a free course that's now open to learners from across the world.
It's not only non-traditional in its development, but also in its topic.
Grounded in social science change theories, Act on Climate identifies concrete actions learners can engage in by themselves and in collaboration with others to address and respond to climate change.
Co-design is a model that we would like to promote across the University of Michigan by creating resources and opportunities to co-develop courses.
By adopting this model, we are confident that the campus of the future will be a place where faculty and students will more effectively learn from each other, where learning will transcend the classroom, and where we will be inspired and empowered to bring about change on society's most complex challenges.
Thank you to the Act on Climate student team and Allison Bressler, their representative. If you'll please take a seat in the chair to talk with the panel. And so now the panel will have 6 minutes to ask you some questions and hear your thought process.
Maybe, if I may, I'll start. I would say that I really love the notion that you guys turned the way classes are designed on its head. So the traditional lecture that we have, typically they're prepared by a professor. The professors assume what the students need to learn, and then they go deliver the lecture. So it's kind of a one-way street, but it was really creative to change that model fundamentally and actually have people who are learning participate in what should be learned. So that was fantastic. And not only you guys did that, but also you integrated more actions into the class program. So it's not just lectures, it's not just homework, it's not just even laboratory. It's actually going out and doing things for real, engaging actually what the topic of the course is. So lots of positives there and lots of great thinking from your team. So congratulations for that. My question is, if you think that we want to expand this model and maybe in the future here at the University of Michigan and beyond, have more of these types of courses that are proactively designed by the participants, by the students and taught, how do you see the mechanism working for identifying what topics should be taught? And how do you initiate the organization of these courses?
Great. Yeah, so the way we initiated ours was we had a professor, Dr. Michelle Zent, who came up with the idea, and then she initiated it. And we ultimately came up with the actual content later. So it started out with a broad idea that was sort of generally applicable to our department, which is climate change. So that's big, broad idea. And then we took it and we broke it down into sections that were...
So
yeah.
tell us how you produced the we.
Oh, the we. So the we came from an email that was sent out to lots of different people, and there was an application process. And then the people who ended up in the team were a diverse group of students from across departments, so that we could create this interdisciplinary project for the global community. So I think, yeah, some kind of application process, but you need somebody who's really wants to make it happen to start the process. I think, well, as we continue to create collaborative environments on campus, we can put groups of people together, and that can help create those groups that come up with those big ideas to start the process. And then that person just needs to be really good at managing people and getting lots of people together to create the project. So it's definitely not easy. I think this process was very difficult. And we are now actually analyzing the process and writing a paper to help others do it in the future, to go over what were our strengths and weaknesses, what worked, what didn't, how can others do it in a less laborious way. So we're definitely working on it, but it's a long process of analyzing and thinking critically about what we did and how we can do it better in the future.
What kind of feedback are you getting from the people who are taking the course?
Yeah, so pretty positive feedback overall. I think I know.
I mean, how are you collecting that?
How are we collecting it? So the course has discussion forums within it where we are prompting students to ask questions about their communities and taking sustainable climate change mitigation and adaptation actions in their communities, and then reporting on that to each other. And so the students who are in these are students who are taking the online course, and they're all over the world. And so they're communicating with each other, and we are reading those discussion forums to see what they're doing, and we have moderators who are prompting people to go in different directions to ask different types of questions.
I find, you know, the ways that you're questioning pedagogy, right, and how one learns through a kind of mode of feedback between teacher and student through the lens of the MOOC, even maybe reimagining a new model for the MOOC. Really, really provocative and really interesting. How are you getting more teachers involved?
Well, I guess that's the next step. I think if people see what we've done and see that it worked and that it functioned, well, so we already have this super interdisciplinary program in the School of Environment and Sustainability with professors who are going outside of the box on a regular basis. So I think that climate that we're creating, and we just started this new school, we have a new dean, we're actually doing the opening ceremonies after this. I think that creating that environment where this kind of behavior or it's kind of academic, getting outside of the traditional academia space is encouraged, will help provide professors with the courage to go out and do it. And I think we have a lot of young professors who have been who are coming here to do things like that, specifically because they feel like they'll be supported. So yeah, I think there's a lot of potential, and I think it does come down to the individual deciding that they want to take on this kind of pressure to change how things are functioning right now.
All right. Thank you, Allison.
Thank you.
Now we're going to take another look at another one of the projects.
Hi, we're Team Fathom, and I'm Scarlett. This is Kenneth, and this is Anthony. We're trying to address student learning barriers, which is a critical issue facing education. Because of the way that the current education system is so standardized, students lack personalization in their studying. Another learning barrier is that students lose interest and motivation because they have not yet developed effective studying habits. And also, the inability to apply theory into action occurs because students lack the understanding of content, and this stems from ineffective studying processes. Our solution is a digital studying mentor. The mentor uses artificial intelligence to individualize and engage students in the learning process. Our solution's first feature is a chatbot analyzer, which aims to tackle the problem of personalization. With a conversational interface, we can widen access to individualized teaching. Like a real tutor, students can communicate with the digital helper. The chatbot will provide feedback and suggestions on material and their studying processes like note-taking.
Our second feature is the practice questions auto-generator. Traditional practice question systems are inflexible in the answers they can process. Through AI, we aim to build a smarter platform that can give open-ended practice that fosters critical thinking and deeper understanding. As you can see, this neural network practice system understands input in different grammatical forms.
Our third feature is the Study Habit Builder, which aims to motivate and engage students in the studying process. Aggregate performance and engagement data can be used to remove poor studying habits and institute healthy practices. Here's a mock-up of a study timer that utilizes the Pomodoro technique to increase focus through regimented breaks.
Our future goals for our digital mentor are to expand access to a quality educational experience and give helpful and immediate feedback to students.
Thank you, Scarlett Ong from Fathom. You already know what to do.
Oh.
U of M students are really smart. They pick up on patterns.
I mean, we were excited about this for a number of reasons. One is I think we all think that personalization is incredibly important. I think maybe it's important for a reason that may not have been the reason that motivates you, but it seems to me that one of the problems we face in higher education today is a set of problems about equity, and one of the reasons there's a problem of equity is because people have very different educational experiences on the way here, and so they need different things to help them achieve. And so I think we all think that there's going to be some kind of future in important future in AI using artificial intelligence in the way that you described. So tell us a little bit about, pick one of the three elements and tell us just a little bit about how you went about thinking about it. Where did you get the ideas from? Where did you get the tools from to do that work?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So I would say as students ourselves, I think it started out, my co-founder and I, we were in this classroom where we started using a digital textbook, and we noticed that it was very effective in certain ways, and they had like practice questions coming out and that kind of thing, but we noticed some sort of inefficiency with it. It was very standardized. It didn't really seem as if I was really learning anything, rather just memorizing concepts and just putting it in. So we had a lot of discussions about how can we improve our education environment, and we sort of like thought about, you know, maybe there's some features out there and maybe technology can help us. So I would say, touching on the one that I really cherish the most would be the chatbot analyzer, because when I reflected on the way that I studied, I think one of the issues, not only just me, because we did go out to do a lot of customer discovery, community discovery, I would say, is that a lot of students, they tend to, you know, although their motivations are for grades, one of the things is students actually do want to learn. It's just that maybe the whole system, the way that it's set out, makes them, you know, be more motivated to kind of like just chase the grades. So, and when they do their exams or whatever they do, they notice that, you know, I'm not doing so well, but what is it? Like, why am I not doing so well? And the why is really difficult to figure out. So that's why we came up with the whole chatbot analyzer, being able to analyze the way that we take notes, the way that we learn, and provide study-proven methods in order to help improve that. Yeah.
So I also really like what you guys have invented. I think you addressed two really important issues, as Anthony mentioned. One is that we started by maybe one-on-one tutoring a long time ago, then transitioned to bigger and bigger classrooms. And I don't know actually what the size of the biochemistry class is nowadays on campus here, but we have a lot of courses that are one teacher and 1,000 people in an auditorium. So a lot of the personal touch has disappeared, so the personal attention to the student. And if you build this system, at least you're on the way to building something that can bring back the personal attention to one specific student and their needs and how they're learning. So that's fantastic. And the other advantage is that once you build it, then it can scale. So unlike humans that we can replicate easily with the right expertise, once you have this, you can make 1 million of that in theory at least. So excellent work. My question is about building this and the first instance of how this is going to get built and how this is going to work out. So if I look at traditional machine learning, the way we teach computers something is that I take one cat video, show it to the system, tell the computer this is a cat video, and then another one, another one. After I do this 100,000 times, luckily I can't find 100,000 cat videos on YouTube. Then the learning set is provided, and the computer knows, the next one, this is a cat video, so it learns. So we can run deep neural networks that way. How are you going to teach this system how to be a real tutor to a student? Where do you find the examples to teach?
Yeah, that is also a really good question. And I think one of the main things that we learned throughout our summer working on this is that these are 3 features, and it's definitely something that is cool and nice to have, but right now what we're working on is to build the user base, because I feel that the artificial intelligence really works based on what the users are doing, which is what the students' notes are, and how they do their practice questions and that kind of thing. So that is really the key for starting this project. And in order to really build that user data, right now what we're currently doing is I am a founder of a peer-to-peer learning social network. So this is our starting point, where we built this peer-to-peer network, get students involved, learning from each other, and from there we will add these kind of features in the far future in order to capitalize on student learning methods.
Thank you, Scarlett. That's all the time we have. I'm going to start with you next time, Jenny. And you can return to the couch now, Scarlett. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So now, you guessed it, another video to look at another project.
Hi, I'm Evan. And I'm Jack. And this is our Campus of the Future.
Ask yourself this: what defines the U of M campus? Is it our 780 acres of property, or our 584 major buildings, or the millions of students that have proudly called themselves Wolverines? We asked ourselves that question, and we realized that this campus isn't defined by its physical boundaries at all. It exists in every mind that enters its doors. Our mission is to serve the people of Michigan and the world, but then why has our relative lack of online coursework so limited our ability to serve the global community?
I would absolutely take an online course if it was offered.
We are proposing the world's first virtual reality campus, a collection of online course content that has been fully built using free software engines like Unity 3D and Unreal. This project puts the U of M at the forefront of recent technological advancement and makes higher education accessible from anywhere. Anybody with a phone or a computer-based VR headset can sign up, log in, and learn within a simulated campus alongside their peers and educators.
The pilot virtual reality course that Evan developed is based on the curriculum for a landscape architecture first-year design studio.
I think also having the ability to really very quickly zoom in and out and shift kind of your scalar perspective would be really useful.
In terms of building a community, you only need to look at existing multiplayer online games to see how closely knit virtual communities can be, even if the members live thousands of miles away.
The project would be implemented in 3 phases. In Phase 1, simple interactive models will be published online using low-cost, highly effective tools such as Sketchfab and Unity 3D. In just a couple clicks, immersive educational content can be ready to enrich in-class activities for the U of M. Phase 2 will see full course curricula transcribed into VR experiences. These educational units can then easily be published online in a proprietary format owned by the university, and the VR students would pay the same price and receive the same credit as their offline counterparts. Finally, Phase 3 compiles all VR coursework developed during Phases 1 and 2 and houses them in a VR environment that is accessible by mobile device or one's home computer. The VR online campus isn't defined by a building or a classroom or even a city. The campus of the future is everywhere. The future is online. The future is virtual.
All right. Welcome Evan Granito to the hot seat, I guess.
I'll go ahead and launch into it. So I think one of the things that we talked quite a lot about in the context of your project is the topic of accessibility and this notion of expanse and forming new connections, accessibility of learning, and less about the technology, the VR, which is obviously very important, but the bigger idea is the vision that you're presenting. So excellent job on that, and you definitely provoked a lively discussion amongst us. I guess my question to you is, because we can now begin to rethink what the classroom is, what are some of those new models? What might the classroom of the future be if it's no longer a physical space that we have to be physically in?
Yeah, thank you. That's a great question. I guess the short answer would be the classroom would be anything that we wanted it to be, or anything that the professors or the educators needed it to be in order to best communicate the content that they're trying to deliver. What we've done is create 2 pilot courses, one of which takes place within a simulated lecture hall, essentially, not unlike this room. Anyone who came by the showcase earlier might have run through that particular pilot course. And that's one way to approach it. And then on the other side, you could have a class that's at the bottom of the ocean or at the farthest reaches of space, or the other one that we've developed is sort of on a large platform over a 1-to-1 scale model of Ann Arbor. So, and we chose to put it there because that course is about GIS data visualization, just for example. So that was an effective way to model it, so that as you toggle on the data, you can see it actually take place in real time at a 1-to-1 scale in the world around you. So it's completely immersing the students in the content that they're trying to learn in whichever way is most appropriate, which would be determined by talking to educators and content developers and people delivering the curriculum and seeing how they want it to work.
So I also really like the way you guys have developed this project, and I think it's very thoughtful, lots of really great things in there. If you really genuinely actually build this environment that feels like a campus, so you can roam around and meet people and then attend your class and learn, I think you are solving some of the major issues that we have today in higher education, which is access, scaling, and cost. So I think this potentially can be a lot more accessible than a purely physical campus. Certainly more scalable because you can duplicate this multiple times almost at no cost if you wanted to. But I think fundamentally, if this works, and it could work, it can be multiple orders of magnitude cheaper to access. So we can provide quality higher education to a lot more people at a lot less cost. So really important. So the question I have is about the campus experience. So we all know that going to the University of Michigan is not just about sitting in a lecture hall and listening to the professor. A big part of the experience is not actually in the lecture hall, is when you walk out and you talk to your friend, when you sit with your friend over coffee and try to solve equations, when you go to social activities on campus. And I think this campus, the virtual campus, has to have all of those really in some form to really be a campus, to give the students the Michigan experience or a copy of the Michigan experience. So what are your group's thoughts about what happens in this campus outside of the classroom, and how are you going to enable these social interactions?
Yeah. So very wise man told me earlier today that when I'm asked a question that hasn't entirely been fleshed out, don't just say, the programmers will figure it out. Lean into that. So let me start off by saying it could happen any number of ways. And the actual interface in terms of peer-to-peer communication or file sharing or the way that the virtual community would build those relationships, there's a lot of different ways it could work. And we're not married to any one in particular. Some programs, virtual reality programs and multiplayer online games handle it essentially by having you send a notification that's requesting contact, requesting opening communication either by voice or text. So that's one way to do it, and then others just have constant broadcasting of one's voice, so you can hear those who are close to you, just like talking in real life, and if someone's too far away, the sound of their voice is spatialized to the player's avatar, so they can't be heard unless you're right there listening to them. So that maybe is a more organic way of communicating in virtual space. There's a lot of different ways in development and a lot of research going into that exact question. So the shorter answer is we don't know yet, but it could really be anything.
Thank you, Evan. That's the time we have for this one. Now we're going to take a look at the next video.
Ever since its founding in 1817, the University of Michigan has been exploring new frontiers, both physical and academic. That spirit of exploration, combined with a willingness to push the limits of what is possible, has shaped the university for the last 3 centuries. And this tradition continued when we colonized Mars. This is the University of Michigan's Martian campus. We have set out to be the Red Planet's foremost institution of higher learning, offering education to humanity's first interplanetary colony. Explore this revolutionary campus through its architecture, curriculum, and student life.
Hi, my name is Leo Bice.
Hi, my name is Olivia Hunter. I study biology with a focus on evolution and extreme ecosystems.
I'm a sophomore film and photography major at the University of Michigan, and this year I'm studying abroad on Mars.
I thought that Mars was a perfect place to work really closely with mice to see if and how they're able to adapt to different environments.
Most people think of going to Mars as more of a STEM thing, more for people in math and in sciences, but as a photography major, I was sent because people wanted to get a more human idea of what Mars looks like.
Choose from a wide range of classes taught by experts renowned on 2 worlds. Some courses include mechatronic systems design, investigative Martian medchem, sustainable space farming, economics of the new frontier, and an introduction to dance in weak gravity.
The university offered a tract for film and photography majors to be able to come to Mars and experiment with, filming and taking photos in, lower gravity and different types of light.
The research that I do will help determine how sustainable life is on Mars. So why not study here at Mars?
Venture out into the solar system, study on Mars, and make the Red Planet go blue.
So Ben Greaves has managed to travel back in time another 100 years and join us today. So got a few minutes with him.
Awesome video.
Thank you. Yeah.
I'll go ahead and get started. So I really appreciate the vision for the project. The notion of the new frontier of education. The future campus being literally on Mars, and so it's bold. It's high risk, and it's really fun and clearly communicated. So I guess my question has to do with the architecture of the campus. And you may know there's some pretty interesting things going on with 3D printing actual matter on Mars. And that actually being the device to make the first station up there. So I'm curious to hear a little bit more about some of the thoughts that you and your team have had around how you integrate with the extreme conditions of Mars and the architecture that you perhaps might put there in the context of a campus.
Certainly. Well, yes, we really were excited to have an architecture professor join us for this competition because we're excited to get your feedback on our designs. And so on the note of using the Martian environment itself, there's some of our buildings we specifically had more towards the color of the Martian dirt itself, as those would be the buildings that we look to 3D print with that Martian dirt. And so a lot of what space exploration is looking to do is to utilize the very few resources that are available in space today, whether it be asteroids or Mars or the moon, the water involved or the dirt itself. And like you said, the 3D printing is certainly an emerging technology that's really going to allow us to utilize those limited resources to the fullest. And so whether it be bringing materials from Earth or printing on Mars, we're also hoping that the technology for more radiation protection materials will be developed in the next 100 years in order to help solve. That's one of the more significant problems. But we really wanted to attack this from both a what would be some of the designs, what does the future look like when it comes to building? Obviously that changes through culture, as well as attacking it from a scientific standpoint of making sure that we do deal with those hazardous conditions on Mars. And so, yes, we were able to kind of look at, both from an architecture and engineering standpoint, how can we really make sure that the Mars buildings are suitable for the environment.
So, bold, very Michigan bold, so awesome. So, earlier actually we also talked about this, and we were talking about, if we showed some person who's living 100 years ago in 1917, some of the things that we take for granted today, including our cell phones, they would feel that this is magic. And we're using some of these tools also in education today. So definitely a lot of people on their phones do stuff, look for information. They have social networks that help with classwork, things like that, digital textbooks. So apologies for putting you on spot here, but if you actually fast forward 100 years, let's assume that we build the Michigan Mars campus. Just give us your best guess of what do you think that looks today to us as magic that might be possible 100 years from now. And the requirement is that you can't break the laws of physics, but otherwise things okay. So what would be actually magic, it would look like magic today, but we might have it 100 years from now on this campus?
Certainly, yes. I think one of the things, noting back to looking at material science development, is the use of nanotechnology and developing materials on a molecular level. I think that's something that we're just beginning to tap into, and is certainly going to be needing to be developed in the next 100 years in order to help realize some of our goals here. A lot of the challenges that we face with space exploration is radiation protection and making sure that we have material that's strong enough to withstand the environments of space, as well as the, like I said, the radiation ions that are going to be attacking you both in transit to Mars as well as on Mars. And so I think something that I fully haven't even wrapped my head around, so to me it is magic, is some of the work that we even have in the Lurie Nanofabrication Laboratory here at Michigan. Some of the work that they're doing, I think, is really going to change the next even 10 to 25 years. We're going to see some really incredible technology, both material science and electrical engineering, through developing smaller and faster and better computers. I think all those really come together through the magic of nanotechnology.
Yes, yeah, just so what I'm interested in is, to back up a little bit, it's a bold idea, but why should we have a campus on Mars?
Yeah. So one of the, I think when we thought about this idea, we really backed up into the core beliefs of Michigan, because I think it's worked out pretty well so far, some of our beliefs. And we really, we we first sent out surveys to all different departments around Michigan, to the faculty and to the students, to really see what would they like to see on Michigan, on this Martian campus, and really what do they hold dear as being a Michigan staff, student, or faculty member. And we really found that it's that innovative presence that we have. Michigan was founded as kind of the University of the West. In 1817, Michigan was kind of a forest, and we just kind of got planted in here into what seemed to be in very hostile terrain. And so our goal was really to really latch on to that vision and that mentality of Michigan as being that innovative frontier campus. And so I think it's about what's out there. And so I'm excited to have the Wolverines be leading that initiative into the new Wild Wild West.
Thank you, Ben. And now we'll take a look at the remaining video.
The campus of the future must break free of its institutional and geographic boundaries to branch out into surrounding communities, create experiential learning options for students, and engage a variety of stakeholders. The future is inclusive. The future is not limited by four walls. The future is mobile. It's time to mobilize education. Mobile learning labs will create common ground for more fluid, cross-discipline idea exchange while engaging with the local community. As an access point for students, researchers, and community members, mobile learning labs cultivate a collaborative approach to education, research, and design, and will be a conduit for experiential and participatory learning as a more integral part of a University of Michigan education. We explored this idea by creating the landscape architecture virtual reality themed prototype called the VRB and brought it to the east side of Detroit. Here's what happened. Spatial design disciplines like landscape architecture, as well as related fields such as social work and public health, can use mobile labs to empower communities by facilitating the co-creation of knowledge, be that in design and planning of open spaces or the location of vegetative buffers to improve air quality. Three-dimensional and virtual reality visualizations of landscape designs offer contextually meaningful representations that provide a common visual language which can be harnessed to co-design the future with community members and other stakeholders. Mobile learning labs can rejuvenate the university's social, political, and cultural role in society and reframe the notion of the university as an ivory tower, disconnected from society. Mobile labs aren't limited to a specific field or discipline. They can be used by any discipline seeking more direct engagement with communities. Think mobile health clinics or ethnographic studies. Mobile research will travel beyond the geographic barriers of the University of Michigan and more directly link the university to the world. The road is the limit.
And from Mobile Learning Lab, we have Shannon Silt.
I'll start. So I think, in our discussions around your project, we talked quite a lot about mobility and its connection to empowerment. And we were quite impressed with the breadth of your inquiry, both the idea and the vision that you have collectively, but then also that you've tested it, that you've gone out and people have actually been engaging with your project. So I just, I wonder if the campus of the future won't actually have disciplines, right? And what you're proposing is a kind of expansive connectedness of access. And I'm curious, I guess my question is if you could talk a little bit more about what mobility provides in terms of empowerment and making connections to communities.
Yeah, so I would say that mobility provides a way for students, if you're taking a class and going out into one of these mobile learning labs, to really get to experience a space. So you're kind of using all senses for learning. You could use the mobile learning lab as a classroom and then go out and actually experience a space. And in a research setting, it really allows students and researchers to directly engage with community members and understand their needs. Specifically with landscape architecture and participatory design, we can learn about specific community needs and then design to meet those needs.
So the idea here, though, is to have a structure that can be used for in any field where it would be useful either for research or educational purposes to go out with the tools that you would assemble in this bus, basically.
Yeah.
So can you think of, I mean, who else should be interested in this? Obviously, someone who's interested in landscape design is going to be interested in this because you want to go out in the landscape, you want to meet the people whose landscape it is. But what about some other possible applications?
So
it's a general idea rather than as well as a specific idea.
It's incredibly versatile in that any field-based course could use a mobile learning lab to go out and conduct field research, ecology, soils, any field-based course, and then come back and actually have their lab equipment set up and do whatever they need to do in the mobile lab. Another research interaction could be testing user interfaces. We talked about school information could really use this to go out and seek feedback from community members on their products.
Might be able to persuade the psychology department that the psychology of undergraduates isn't the only psychology that's interesting, and that they could maybe go out into the world and look at some other people.
Exactly, and that's why it just seems like incredibly versatile and applicable to so many different disciplines. And we wanted to emphasize that, even though we just did the landscape architecture theme, we wanted to emphasize that it's so adaptable.
So I also really like this notion of a dynamic university, that the university is not a static structure that sits in an arbor. It can actually extend. It's like a tree that it can extend its branches out to the community, much further than Detroit, even if needed, and be present for some period of time and then come back here. So this is really an interesting concept. It's a good way to connect the university, connect people to the community, connect people together. By the way, this theme of connecting people came out multiple times as we went through different projects today. And me and my colleagues were really impressed by the thoughtfulness that your group and some other groups expressed. Should call out the group called Ditto, which actually all three of us really liked, but we could only have 5 people up here. That would have been definitely up here if you had more options here. More people we could bring up. But that was another good way of kind of connecting people. So I just wanted to ask you if you could elaborate more on how education can happen in these spaces. We talked about research, so you would go do user research, you may take soil samples and have a laboratory. So the research part, I think, is nicely figured out. But if the main purpose is actually education, how do you see these spaces work out? How would they interact with the community as they sort of show up in a new place?
Yeah, so I specifically think of like architecture courses, history courses, or biology courses that could use the space as a lecture space within the mobile lab. And then actually, so travel to a site, use the space for a lab, and then go out and see a site. Maybe it's an architecture course, historical architecture course, so they can go into Detroit or any local community that has interesting architecture that they want to study more. I think that it really depends on the topic. It really could, as long as, so like we said, the road is the limit. As long as the topic has something to engage with out in the world, and it's within a reasonable radius from Ann Arbor, they can go out and see it as a class and really get that tactile learning experience and really bring experiential learning more into the university. So it's really built in, and students gain a lot of memories from those experiences, and I think long-lasting learning from experiential learning opportunities.
Thank you, Shannon. Our panel of judges will now go backstage to discuss and make final decisions about winning projects. So I'll let you get up. And, oh, yeah. And then let's give a round of applause to our project representatives.
Okay, so are we,
thank you all for joining us. You can head back down with your teams now. I just want to thank again all the participating project teams for your hard work, your vision of what the future can look like, and the inspiring innovations that you've been working on. If any of you want to keep working on them, you can talk to me, and we'll help you do that through Optimize. I just want to let everybody know that for their dedication and participation in the Campus of the Future, all project teams will be receiving this lovely M Campus of the Future award. So everybody goes home with something. For those of you who have not yet had a chance to go actually check out the project showcase, it's going to be open again tomorrow from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. up in the Duderstadt Center on North Campus. So I really encourage you to go check it out. I had a chance to go today and meet a lot of the teams, talk with them about what they're doing, and it's just a really inspiring experience to hear what they're working on, what their vision for the future is. So I encourage you to do that. Winning projects will also be featured between 4 and 7 p.m. tomorrow at the 3rd Century Expo, which is on the Diag in Ingalls Mall, right here on Central Campus. And following today's event, in just a few minutes, I invite you to join us in the lobby for a reception afterward. So it's looking like the judges are ready. So I'll welcome you all back out to make the announcements.
So our third place winner is the Satellite Campus on Mars. So congratulations. Thank you very much. Good. We enjoyed very much working with you. And here is this is the symbolic award. As you learned earlier, there's also a non-symbolic award. So congratulations. And we need to go this way.
So if you go with him over there.
We need to go this way. Just stand here.
And the second place goes to the Virtual Reality Online Campus.
Yay.
Congratulations. Congratulations. There you go. Go this way.
I think you're over there, actually.
Back.
On the 2.
Okay, here we go. Big stage.
We've got serious stage direction happening here.
Okay, so, and the first prize goes to the University of Michigan Mobile Learning Labs. Congratulations. Good job. Congratulations. Congratulations.
This concludes our program. Thank you, everyone, for attending. I hope that we'll see you out in the reception room. And go blue.
Congrats. Congrats.
Yeah, congratulations. Good job.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Well, you guys did all the work, so it was great. Congratulations. Great. Yeah.